Let's do this! Come on! Now we're getting somewhere.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Guess the Rank. If you watched the last episode, you'll know that I was giving away a copy of PlayerUnknown's Battleground. Well, the results are in. 3 people actually guessed the rank correctly. The SR was 4215. 3 people guessed correctly, but only 2 of them are subscribers though. Leo and Orion Supergan. I'm feeling generous, so you can both have a copy. I'll send you both messages shortly. On to the VOD. We've got a Pharah defending on Watchpoint Gibraltar, which can be quite tricky to make work. If you can choke the enemy team in the underpass, it'll be good rocket damage, but if they decide to take the top route, it'll make it hard for Pharah to be effective. First thing I can spot is defending from the low ground. No logic to this at all apart from being closer to the enemy team. It's best to take either the first ledge up from the steps, or ideally further back on top where the Pharah was originally.
They got a Ryan, by the way. He's come up main entrance.
Okay, Pharah is going on a flanking mission at the start. This shouldn't really pay off, as the risk is not worth the reward. Dying here will give the enemy team a massive advantage to push forward. Killing someone here will buy mere seconds before they're back out of spawn again ready for another push. I've already ruled out quite a few ranks based on this decision making. The aiming is quite twitchy, but the shots seem to land relatively on target anyway, with the whole team pushing right up to the spawn doors. I'm sure this won't pay off in the long run. The enemy team is still oddly oblivious to the Pharah hovering over them, but they've decided to take that approach too. I've seen a lot of discussion about how strong Pharah is in the low ranks. Maybe this is a prime example. Fortunately, the team can regroup through Symmetra's TP, but it doesn't make it any less of a bad decision to be defending so far up. This is what I expected to happen. Now the enemy team have plenty of space to push the payload before everyone is back ready to defend. I was half expecting Pharah to ult as soon as she had it there, as the enemy team's so oblivious, but even if it wasn't shut down, it would be a waste as the enemy team would just keep pushing the payload, so that's some good thinking there. Pharah is quite lucky here though, considering she's completely separated from her team. Okay, that's not the ult I was hoping for. A complete waste, and it could be important coming up. At least the team aren't pushing back up to the spawn doors again. Pharah's go-to escape seems to be moving towards the enemy team's spawn doors. It doesn't seem to work out, and given how much space Pharah has on this area of the map, she shouldn't be too easily separated from her team. A useful teleport and probably the only area of the map Symmetra could be effective. If you can choke the enemy team in the underpass, it will be difficult for the enemy Pharah to even help them.
Nice.
This player spends such a long time navigating their way around the map. It wastes quite a lot of time and leaves them outside for far too long. Their contribution to the map so far hasn't been very significant purely because of this.
Close hold.
That's a very close contest. Again, the Symmetra teleporter saves the day. Pharah doesn't seem to be landing a lot of shots here though, even though she's relatively uncontested. I'd say this looks like they're playing on relatively high sensitivity, you should consider turning it down a bit. It might be more difficult at first, but there's a reason most good players are playing low sensitivity. It's because of the precision that allowed. Not to mention, if you're prone to the stress shakes, it will help smooth that out.
Good job, guys.
I never thought I'd say this, but this Symmetra seems to be carrying the game, even with a Pharah on the enemy team. Okay, so what have we seen so far? I don't want to be mean, but this is a tougher match to find a way to equalise the positive and the negative. When I saw that they didn't use that ult early in the match as soon as they built it, I thought we were leaning towards good ult management. I'll give them that in the sense that it wasn't necessarily impulsive, but the ult that followed was a massive waste in the end anyway. Still better than ulting as soon as they could though. If we look at positioning so far, this player has spent a lot of time trying their hardest to get behind the enemy team and surprise them. Now this is the thing, in theory that kind of thinking is good and indicative of higher level play, but in practice in this match, it isn't. Flanking to camp them outside of spawn is a big no-no at any level, and should never really be rewarded in the long run. Taking a long time to flank behind amidst a team fight is a big no-no, as they need the damage there and then to help win the fight. Especially in this match where it doesn't seem to matter whether Pharah comes from behind or on top, no one seems to really care or notice. Alright, let's take a look at the second half then.
Right after that, we have Flame Strike, and then, he would fireball a lot worse than that. That's how insane he's
Again, the flanking approach. This time it pays off, and although Pharah isn't the ideal first target as she's tough to hit, it pays off and results in 2 clean kills. The enemy team is still oblivious, and this is a much better example of using flanking to your advantage.
Get the run, yeah. Jump so far.
Pharah's in a bit too deep here though, and can't land the shots to make it worthwhile. I have no idea how she's not dead.
behind you guys.
That was a good opportunity to use the ult and likely won the match. It was a bit of a random game really, and had we watched this in reverse order I'd probably have been a bit more positive at the halfway point.
No, never mind.
Pharah is a weird hero to play on defense. In fact, using her to flank in general on defense is risky and should only be done in the perfect opportunity.
Good job, guys.
As you can see on attack, it can really pay off and get things moving. We didn't really get a chance to see much of this Pharah playing on offense, but it was a good ult to bring the team fight to a close, as well as a good clear of high ground at the start, making good use of a Pharah Mercy combo. I would suggest that when engaging the enemies from above, it's probably best to practice feathering the jump pack on Pharah, so that you can stay afloat a bit higher up. That way the enemies will have to look directly above to engage the Pharah, and Pharah will have more options for cover available. The downside to this is obviously that you need better aim in the first place, but that's something that can be worked on. Lowering the sensitivity should help with this in the end, but it will take some time to get used to it. Positioning is probably this player's biggest downfall, defensively. No offence, but they were useless. They spent so much time trying to find a good position that the other members of the team had to pick up the slack in terms of damage. Fortunately Symmetra was there, otherwise we'd have a much longer second half. I do commend their use of flanking on the attack half though, as they can clearly see the importance of getting behind the enemy team. I'm going to guess that this is a silver match. It's definitely no higher than gold, because I hope that most diamond players aren't trying to hold outside of spawn doors. I'd expect a gold player to have a better sense of positioning, but maybe some of you in the comments can chime in on that. So what is it then? Silver. I think it's fair. I don't think they deserve to be higher until they tighten up their positioning and lower that sensitivity to make it easier to aim consistently. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Also, the next episode will be the final episode of the series. I still need a VOD for that episode, so if you have one that isn't the same rank or hero that we've seen so far this series, then I'd really appreciate if you could submit that. In fact, I would actually appreciate a Genji VOD maybe. You can send your VODs to mattgrove17@gmail.com. Cheers guys.